Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So as this video we are going to learn new types of documents that are required for recording all the financial transactions. We already know that we have begun with our new chapter, that is source documents required for accounting, and in my previous video we learnt about what is voucher, why these vouchers are created, cash voucher, petty cash voucher, their contents, their specimen. We learnt this thing in my previous video. So in this today's video we are going to learn the rest of the source documents that are required for the specific task, for which specific task the voucher are being prepared, why it is prepared, how the specimen looks, how we have to make entries into it. So that we are going to cover in this today's video. So without any further delay, let's start the video. The another document is cash memo. Now this is the specimen of cash memo. Here some contents are given. I will explain you why this cash memo is prepared. This cash memo is prepared by the seller who sold the goods on the basis of cash payment. That is, if buyer has made payment in cash in return of the goods he has purchased, that for that purpose seller makes this cash memo. Okay. Now a cash memo is in a printed form and it is in a bound book. This cash memo comes in a bound book. A seller can make a duplicate copy of this cash memo. Otherwise he can a carbon copy can be also made, where he can keep the carbon copy for himself as a proof that he has made the sale of the goods, and the original copy is handed over to the buyer. Now the carbon copy he keeps with himself because to record that entry in his books of account where he is maintaining all his financial records. Cash memo is prepared for the payment of goods made by the buyer in cash, and this cash memo is prepared only by the seller. Nobody can maintain this cash memo. Okay. Now cash memo, we cannot say this is a receipt. This is a proof. We can say that the seller is keeping for his selling of goods in return of the cash payment. Okay. So let's see what are the contents of this cash memo. Now here the company name is written over here, Bharat Commercial Center. This cash memo, here the address of the buyer will come over here, to whom the goods are being sold. This is the address of that center, your telephone number, telex number, if any, email address, dealers in INO gases, welding. These are the goods this company has sold to some person or some other company. These are the equipments or goods, we can say. Cash memo number, date. Here description of the goods, like what are the types of goods, how, to whom it is being sold, in what quantity they are sold, what is the rate of each quantity, and what is the total amount of each quantity. This is how the contents appear over here. Here are some conditions regarding this cash memo. Goods once sold will not be taken back or exchanged. Okay. Now if you have sold goods to somebody, always you will keep a condition that if you have sold it, you cannot take it back, because in case if the buyer purchases goods and return back to us in a damaged manner, it will be a loss for the supplier or the seller. That is why this condition is made in every cash memo. Subject to Pune jurisdiction only. Checks accepted subject to realization. Okay. Now subject to Pune jurisdiction only, that is, if it is Pune's seller, then only Pune's authority can verify this. No other city or district can verify this cash memo, because goods are goods are being sold from one city, that is Pune. Here address is given to over here. Checks accepted subject to realization. Now check should be in that form that it shouldn't get bounced. Like if buyer is giving you a check and in his account no amount is being saved, then from where you can acquire the money you have sold goods to him. So that is why checks accepted subject to realization, that it should be honored, it should be legal, and the account should be we can withdraw or transact the amount from the buyer's account. So that is why the check, whenever a buyer is making payment in checks, it should be legal and the date should be appropriate. Okay, this is how the checks work. If it gets bounced and bank will say you that the buyer doesn't have any amount in his bank account, you will completely go in loss. That is why this is also an important condition made over here. Now here are some more conditions. We are hereby certify that our registration certificate under the MVAT Act 2002 is in the force on the date on which the sale of goods specified in this cash memo is made by us, and that the transaction of sale covered by this cash memo has been effected by us in the regular course of our business. Okay, now this is an authority the seller is giving to the buyer that he has made the sale of goods to the buyer. Here he is giving some proof, his registration certificate of his company, any industry, whatever it may be. So he is giving a proof over here, a sort of proof that it is a legal company or industry for selling goods, and the signature of the seller. This is how the cash memo looks like, and this is how it works. Next document is credit memo. Here it is the specimen. Before we get into the specimen, let's see what is credit memo. Credit memo is that type of document where seller issues it to the buyer where goods are sold on credit or loan. Okay, if a buyer has purchased goods from the seller on credit, that is on loan, seller issues a credit memo to the buyer as well as for himself. He keep a copy of a carbon copy of this credit memo for himself, and original is handed over to him, so that in future, after the credit period is over, with this document the buyer will pay the amount of the goods that he has purchased on loan from the seller. Now this document, credit memo, this is a verification for the goods being sold on credit to the buyer. This document can easily get verified in your books of account, where you have made an entry that such type of goods are sold to the buyer. This document is attested to it, so that in future, if you are going through your books of account, you will get to know that you have sold goods to some of your buyers on credit. So this credit memo is an evidence for you that you have sold goods to any person, any institute, any industry, any company on credit. So that is why this credit memo is prepared. Now this credit memo has a certain period. Like if you are giving somebody your goods on credit, it has certain period of credit. That is, if for 3 months this credit period, that is, you have given goods to any industry, any company for 3 months on loan. After that 3 months are over, you can call them, you can check your books of account, see how long this credit period is going to go. So this credit memo gives all this information, that to whom the goods are sold on credit, for how many months this credit period is offered to them, to whom credit memo is issued, so that the buyer will pay back the amount that you have sold the goods to them on credit. So that is why this credit memo is prepared. Okay, so let's see what are the contents of this credit memo. Now here, Bharat Commercial Center, this is the company of a seller. Now dealers in now this Bharat Commercial Center, it deals in every aspect over here. The names are given: Indian gases, welding electrodes and equipments, grinding wheels, industrial safety wares. Like this Bharat Commercial Center also deals in this equipments. The dealers are also in other fields. So here they have given some sort of notice. Credit memo number, to whom this credit memo is being issued. Like if the fifth buyer of your goods, then you will write over here, fifth number of buyer has taken goods from me on credit. So the number will appear over here. This credit memo also comes in a bound book. It also a small book is being maintained where all this credit memo pages are attested. The date, on which date this credit memo is issued to whom, the address of your center, and to whom you are issuing this credit memo, the address of that person will also appear over here. Order number, on which date you have credited these goods, the date will appear over here. Challan number, date, RR number, again date. Now here the description of the goods. If he has purchased any sort of machinery, any business equipments or furniture equipments, the description will appear over here. How much how much quantity he has purchased it, the rate of each product, the total amount. Now here, payment due on or before. The amount you're writing over here, it also states that before this you have to pay and after this date you have to pay. So the date will also appear over here, and the amount. Okay, if you have to pay the amount today itself, the date will appear over here. Like what is the date today? 25th August 2020. On this date you have to pay the credit amount. So like this amount is to be paid. Now this is the registration certificate number, MVAT. Now this MVAT, I don't know if it is in existence, but registration number under the MVAT Act 2002. They give certain information about their company, about their industry. Registration certificate number under CST Act. Their legal information they have mentioned over here. Some terms and conditions: goods once sold will not be taken back or exchanged. As I have already explained you in cash memo, the same condition has been appeared over here. Second condition, if whole bill is not paid within 1 month, interest will be charged at 18% per annum. We hereby certify that our registration certificate number under the MVAT Act 2002 is in force on the date on which the sales of goods specified in this credit memo is made by us, and that the transaction of sale covered by this credit memo has been effected by us in the regular course of our business. Here in this condition they have said that if whole bill is not paid within the certain amount, within the certain date that is being specified to you, the company will charge you interest at 18% per annum. And here they have given the legal information of their center, of their institution, that their registration certificate number is in force on the date on which the sale of goods specified in this credit memo is, on which date these goods are being sold. On that date this MVAT Act 2002 registration certificate number came into the force. This is how the credit memo works. Some conditions here, a description of your goods, here to whom the goods are being sold for credit. All this information is being written in credit memo, that is to whom you have sold goods on credit, that is on loan. Credit memo is prepared. Okay, and signature of the person to whom to who the credit is offered. Like if I have offered you credit, like you have taken some goods from me on the loan, then I will sign over here, so that, and I will send it to you that on this date you have to pay me the amount. So the signature will appear over here. So this is how the specimen works. The another document is receipt. Now why this receipt is prepared? Nowadays in this modern business, all the credit transactions, that is all the loan transactions, are very common, in which goods are firstly delivered, but the payment of those goods that you have taken on loan is made after a particular period. So at the time of making the payment of the goods that you have purchased on loan, it is necessary for the receiver to acknowledge the payment, to keep a proof of this. As he is making payment of certain goods, he needs some proof. For this purpose, a document is prepared that is called as receipt, as a proof that he has made the payment for the goods he has purchased. Okay. Now the receipt must be prepared and issued by the payee when he receives cash. Okay. Now if you have taken goods from me, and you are making me payment of those goods that you have purchased from me on credit, so I will give you receipt that you have paid me the amount of that goods. So this receipt I will issue you that you are paid the amount of the goods. Okay, this is how the receipt works. Now these receipts are just not only issued for the payments that you have collected from debtors or creditors. Like if you have issued goods from any supplier, then not just this receipt is issued by the seller to you. It can be issued by other legal authorities. Like if you are depositing into a bank, if you are taking loans, advances from customers, they will also issue you a receipt. Okay. So not just for payments, but on other authorities can also give you this receipt where you are making transactions with them. Now this receipt are also numbered and arranged in bound book. Now every receipt has a duplicate copy, but a carbon copy is prepared of this receipt, as this is a proof for you that you have made the payment. So you cannot show the duplicate copy of your receipt. In case you can show a receipt of this, but not a duplicate copy, because that is not a legal one. But a receipt we can show as a carbon copy to the seller or the supplier, to the buyer, sorry. Let's see the contents of this. Now here a company is mentioned, a Mayur Trading Company, 102 Ravivar Pet, Nagpur. Now this company is has been issued with the receipt. Registration number will appear over here. Date, received with thanks from Messrs. Now the name will appear over here from whom this receipt is being received. Messrs, I already told you what does it mean. Messrs, it is a company where two persons set up a business and run the business. So in this form M/S is written. That in short, just consider it as a partnership firm. Okay. A sum of rupees, the amount will appear over here. Like how much amount you have paid, that amount will appear over here. Against bill number will appear over, if the 2, 3, which whatever the bill number may be, it will appear over here. Dated, when you are getting this receipt, the date will appear over here. By cash / check number, which payment mode you are paying the amount, that will appear, number will appear over here. On what date the check and cash is being paid, that will also appear. Drawn on which bank? If SBI bank, then the bank will appear over here, and rupees. A legal stamp will be stamped over here because this is a legal document. This is an original document. And receiver always receives an original document, so a stamp is a must thing over here. And a receiver's signature, whoever the person may be, the receiver's signature is a very important thing over here. Subject to realization of check. If it is a check receipt, if you have paid the amount in check, after the check is being honored, you will be given this receipt. So the condition will appear over here, subject to realization of check. Another document is debit note. Now why debit note is prepared? It is prepared for debiting the account of the counterpart, that is of the other person, with the amount and the reason specified therein why he is debiting the account and why he is preparing this debit note. Now what may be the reasons for issuing this debit note? Less debit, if any less debit, then this note is prepared. Formerly given less debit, this debit note is prepared. Additional debit is now to be given. If a large amount is being debited, this debit note is prepared. To cancel the wrong credit or extra credit given. If any wrong amount or any extra amount is being given, then this debit note is prepared. Now what circumstances come for preparing this debit note? Now difference in quantity mentioned in the bill and the quantity actually delivered. Now if 4 quantity of pens are being delivered to you, so the 4 quantity of goods are the actual quantity of goods that you have ordered, but while receiving it you have received only 3 quantity. So that is why this debit note is prepared, that less quantity of goods are being delivered. Another circumstance may be difference in the rate charged in the bill. If you are being told that one pen is for 5 rupees and it is being charged for rupees 10, so this pointing out this mistake, this debit note is prepared, that the amount is being charged with a different rate. Now difference in the calculation, this is another circumstance. Any miscalculation may occur, that is why this debit note is prepared. Return or rejection of the goods. Now if you have received goods from the supplier, but you got the goods in a damaged form, so you want to return back it to the supplier, so this debit note is prepared. Difference in the amount or rate of tax charged. Now if the rate of the pen is 5 rupees and tax is being charged 15 rupees, now this is totally wrong. So that is why this debit note is prepared, to point them out that if the amount of the pen is lesser, then how can the tax be overcharged? So this debit note is prepared for that purpose too. Another you can tell is difference in other charges like packing, forwarding, etc. Now if you are receiving goods and you are being told that these are the packing charges for delivering your goods, but it is being overcharged, so that is why this debit note is also prepared for overcharging you with the packing charges. Okay, now why this is important, why this debit note is prepared? If you are returning goods to the seller, or if your amount is being overcharged to you, that is why you are preparing this debit note to the seller, telling him that I am returning back you the goods, or you are charging me with the overcharged amount. That is why I am issuing you this debit note. Okay, then the seller will verify this debit note, what are the reasons for issuing this debit note, and he will send you back the credit note. We will see this document, but let's see what are the contents of this debit note. Here a company is being mentioned over here, Sujit Company Limited, 11 MIDC, Ambad, Nashik, and the pin code. Debit note number, what is the debit note number, like if it is the second, third, fourth, whatever the debit note number may be, it will appear over here. The date on which this debit note is going to be issued, to whom you are issuing this debit note, the name of that person or an artificial person, the name will appear over here. Now here what it says, your account has been debited in our books by rupees, whatever the amount may be. If it is the amount is being overcharged, the amount will appear over here on account of. If you have received goods but the rate is being overcharged, that goods will appear over here, the name of that products will appear over here. Please acknowledge total of those goods and prepared by, if I am preparing this, then my name will appear over here, and the authentic authority, like the legal authority, will be checking this debit note if it is valid or not. So this is how the debit note prepares. The last and the most important is credit note. Now, who issues a credit note? A supplier or a seller issues a credit note, whereas a debit note is issued by the buyer. Okay. Now, why supplier issues a credit note? He issues a credit note if by mistake he has undercharged the goods that he has supplied to the buyer. So he will issue this credit note to the buyer telling him that I have undercharged you the amount. Same way the buyer will prepare the debit note of telling him that the amount you have charged is undercharged. This is how this will work. Supplier will prepare the credit note because he has undercharged, that he has sold the goods on a very, what you can say, for a less amount. It is not the actual amount, and buyer will prepare the debit note telling the seller that you have undercharged the amount of the goods that you have sold. This is how the credit note works. Only supplier can issue credit note. No other person can issue a credit note. Okay, these are this is one of the similar circumstance we can tell in credit note, that if by mistake seller issues goods to the buyer undercharged, he will immediately prepare the credit note to the buyer telling him that I have issued you goods undercharged. That is why this credit note is being prepared. So let's see what are the contents of this credit note. Here a company name is being written over here, Sanklecha Company Limited, 21 MIDC, Satpur, Nashik, and the pin code. Credit number, as it is, what is the number of this credit note, the name will appear over here. The date on which this credit note is being issued, to whom you are issuing it, the buyer's name will appear over here. And here the information, your account has been credited in our books by rupees. The amount will appear over here, like what is the undercharged amount that you have issued to the buyer. That amount will appear over here on account of, if he has purchased some industrial equipments from you, then the equipment's name will appear over here. The total, what is the actual and the entire total of the equipments, that total will appear over here. Please acknowledge. Prepared by the supplier's name will appear over here, or a signature, and the checking authority will check this credit note if it is valid or not. Okay, and it will be sanctioned by that checking authority. Then they will sign over here, or a stamp will be stamped over here. So this is how the credit note works.